Hello there. Christmas is fast approaching and there may well be a bit of a change to the pattern sometime around Christmas. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few moments, but it's been very unsettled yet again. Wednesday offering a brief respite, at least initially. You can see on the jet stream here for midweek, not a lot of jet going on over the UK, but it doesn't last very long, and already very active pieces of jet coming up. But this time they're coming up from the southwest, which is a fairly mild direction. It's also a very sort of moist direction as well. So a lot of rain expected over the coming days, and even by the weekend, a very strong jet stream here, just starting to shift a little bit further north, and that's likely then to be the trend further on into next week and indeed through Christmas week itself. So to put a little bit more detail on that, this is Wednesday. We're starting the day underneath a ridge, so fairly quiet conditions expected first thing. There'll be a bit of frost, could be quite a bit of fog around on Wednesday morning as well, and that could be quite slow to clear given the fact that the isobars are fairly open, which means the winds are fairly light, it's fairly slack conditions, but it will change quite quickly in the southwest with weather fronts approaching. The tightening isobars here meaning stronger winds, one area of low pressure shooting up to the north, and various pulses of rain continuing to pump their way up from the south as we go through Thursday and into the first half of Friday as well. So this is the expected position of things by midday on Friday or into Friday afternoon. Most of the rain by this stage will have cleared, but we will have a good 2 days or so of various pulses of rain running south to north across the UK with some strong winds at times as well. So quite wet from late Wednesday through Thursday and into the first part of Friday as well. In fact, there could be quite a bit of rain in some places. Now, this is just one model's idea of how much rain we could see. And it's a little bit unusual in the sense that most of the rain during this spell will be coming from the south heading to the north rather than from the west and heading to the east. And so it's some places that don't often see much rain could see quite a bit during this spell of weather. And you can clearly see here, southern counties of England, particularly the southern upslopes of Dartmoor, for example, quite a bit of rain here, a couple of inches, maybe as much as 100 millimetres by the end of the week in some parts of the south. Also notice the southern upslopes of South Wales, for example. Notice though a bit of a rain shadow effect going on, North Wales, the northern side of Cumbria for example, and indeed into parts of southeast Scotland as well. So rain shadow to the north of the hills, very wet on the southern upslopes over the next few days or so. That takes us through then till about Saturday or so. Now by the weekend things get a little bit more uncertain, but it's likely late Friday through into Saturday, less isobars, still breezy but not as windy, and it's more showery rather than rain before during Saturday the next area of rain comes in later on in the day. A bit of uncertainty about the exact track of this low, likely to slide its way from west to east, so the northern extent of this rain is somewhat uncertain, more likely to affect the southern half of the UK, but could nudge a little bit further north at times as well. So one to keep an eye on. But the further north you are, in Scotland for example, here it will be somewhat cooler with some showers, but also some sunshine around as well. And so we start next week then with low pressure close to the UK, bringing further bands of wet and windy weather at times in from the Atlantic. But skip forward to the middle of next week. Of course, Christmas is next Wednesday, and we're starting to see things slowing down a touch. Notice this ridge of high pressure building in across the UK. Now, this is the chart for next Wednesday, Christmas Day, but give or take a day or so because the timing often changes with these things. But there are signs that we should get more in the way of ridging at times through next week, but low pressure will always try and push these weather fronts in. So perhaps not completely dry, there's still the chance we could get some rain coming in from the Atlantic at times. So the further west you are, the greater the chance of that, and the further east you are, the better chance of staying dry or seeing less in terms of rainfall through next week as well. And then towards the end of next week, towards next weekend, approaching New Year, of course, high pressure still more or less hanging on across the south and the east of the UK, but these weather fronts might start to make a little bit more progress into the northwest, so perhaps some windier weather in western Scotland, for example, with some rain here. Fairly sort of normal conditions for the time of the year, the drier conditions then towards the southeast. So just hints that things may calm down and settle down more from around Christmas Day onwards in the run-up to the new year as well. But as I say, confidence is not particularly high at the moment, but it's a signal that's been there for some time, and we of course have mentioned that in previous farming forecasts as well. So quite a bit going on in the next 7 days or so, and then things perhaps calming down. If you are trying to get out onto the fields and so forth, still trying to get the sugar beet up or the potatoes, for example, a good way to keep on top of all of that is to keep an eye on WQRadar. Here you can see all the latest observations from around the UK, see what the temperature, the winds are doing, but also where the nearest showers are and how long you've got until the rain starts coming back again from the south, in particular during this spell. So you can see you've got all this information, archive data, and of course live lightning data as well to try and keep you safe. You can log on WQRadar.co.uk, and until New Year's Day we're running a special discount code. It's normally around £48 for an annual subscription, but you can get the first year at half price, just £25 if you use the discount code SANTA when you sign up. As I say, this is running until New Year's Day. Now, as we head further on into the rest of the outlook period then, this is Christmas week, 23rd to the 29th of December, a bigger picture across Europe. And you can see where the reds are here. This is where we've got higher than normal pressure. So quite a strong signal for high pressure across Scandinavia and low pressure towards the southeast of Europe. And you can see a linkage here across the western side of the UK into France and Spain, for example. So hints are here for higher than normal pressure, but not as strong as you can see further northeast across Europe as well. What does that mean? Well, it means above average temperatures quite widely across much of Europe. A very strong signal here for well above normal conditions across central Eastern Europe into Western Russia. Temperatures closer to average in the west, but still a smidge above normal for the time of the year. And of course, with high pressure nearby, that means things will generally start to dry out a bit. So you can see across the western side of Scandinavia and indeed across Western Europe, rainfall near or below average, whereas it's close to the low pressure, you've got above average rainfall with some snow at times across Eastern and Southeastern Europe in particular. And as I say, as we head towards the new year and into the beginning of January, quite a strong signal here for higher than normal pressure to build across central and southern parts of the UK. Now to the north of that, we've still got a flow off the Atlantic. So for the likes of Scotland, maybe parts of Northern Ireland, there will still be some fronts here bringing some rain in. But generally speaking, the further south you come, quite a bit of dry weather, I think, to end the year and just about starting 2020 as well. But here we've got more of a northeasterly flow, and that means temperatures might be a little bit on the cool side as well. So you can see here across much of mainland Europe, temperatures are near or below average. We'll get some fairly shallow cold air near the surface, which means frosty nights, it means some mist and fog, and it means temperatures may struggle to recover during the days as well, given the fact the sun is pretty weak at this time of the year. But notice above average temperatures across Scotland, where we've got that mild flow off the Atlantic, but potentially could be quite wet across the western upslopes of Scotland, depending on where the fronts position themselves. Generally speaking, there's still above average temperatures across Scandinavia and Eastern Europe into Western Russia as well. And a fairly strong signal here for much of Europe actually to be near or below average rainfall-wise through this spell, perhaps just a smidge above average showing up here, as I say, across Western Scotland, but much of the UK actually probably not seeing too much in the way of rain to end the year and to start the next. And then in terms of the fourth week of our monthly forecast, so we're talking 6th of January to the 12th of January here, the high pressure starting to recede away towards the southwest, low pressure becoming a little bit more dominant to the north. This is sort of the typical pattern you would expect with a westerly flow off the Atlantic, bringing bands of rain in, but most frequent in the northwest. Temperatures recovering near normal across many western parts of Europe, still though above average across Scandinavia into Western Russia. And in terms of rainfall, well, it's above average in northwest Scotland, below average in the southeast, so quite a clear northwest-southeast divide, which is fairly typical for the time of the year, and still near or below average rainfall across much of Central and Southern Europe showing up here as well during this period. So just to summarise all of that then for the next few days, we're going to have some rain at times during the next week or so until the beginning of next week, perhaps some strong winds, and there'll be some showers and brighter weather in between those bands of rain as well. But particularly towards the end of this week, there could be quite a bit of wet weather across some southern parts of the UK. A little bit of snow on the northern hills, not a huge amount, and much of the time it will be rain, and that means with a fairly mild southerly flow, frost will tend to be fairly limited to the northern half of the UK most of the time. So not going to be a lot of frost over the next few days, just the odd night here and there. And then towards Christmas, signs are things will become a little bit more settled, so calming things down, the weather fronts becoming less frequent off the Atlantic, more in the way of dry weather, which may last until the new year, as I say, a bit of uncertainty. And then as we go into January, potentially reverting back to that northwest-southeast split, where the northwest sees most of the rain and the southeast tends to stay somewhat drier and more settled. Now here's the Christmas outlook. We've been showing you this for the last few weeks or so. On the left here, we're using ensemble data to show you the percent chance of above average temperatures for that 3-day period between Christmas Eve and Boxing Day, all averaged out. So this is above average, this is below average, and you can clearly see a very strong signal here, as there has been all the way through this, with above average temperatures on Christmas Day or the day either side of it, across a good chunk of Central Eastern Europe into Western Russia. But notice across the UK, the signal is much weaker for above average temperatures and also actually fairly weak for below average temperatures as well. It's quite likely our temperatures in the UK will be close to normal really for Christmas Day compared to much of the rest of Europe, where quite a strong signal for significantly above average temperatures exists for that period as well. So interesting in that respect. And in terms of a white Christmas, what is a white Christmas? Well, technically it's just one flake of snow falling somewhere in the UK during the 24 hours of Christmas Day. If you click up here, there's an explainer talking you through what a white Christmas is and all the historical aspects of it across the UK. How many have we seen since 1960, for example? This map here is for this year, showing you the percent chance based on the data at the moment, so at the time of recording, as to your chance of seeing a white Christmas this year. And you can clearly see it's a fairly low risk in most places, below 10% for the majority. And it's really only these northern hills where you get 40, maybe 50% chance of seeing some of the white stuff on the big day. So not a massive signal in most places, but even still, even if parts of the north saw one flake of snow, it would still count technically as a white Christmas. So that's it for this farming forecast, and indeed for this year. Thank you very much for your comments and feedback, and for watching during the past 7 months that we've been running this video. We're very grateful for your feedback, and do please keep it coming in into the new year. The next farming forecast will be in January. So from all of us here at Weatherquest, we wish you a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next year.